Yeah, we currently have 12 people on Zoom.
Oh, on Zoom currently?
Yeah.
Good. Hello, Roger. All right, he'll tell me when.
Daniel.
Thank you. Good evening to those of you here at the Public Safety Complex. My name is Neil Bagdis. I am currently the chairman of the Planning Board for the town of Paxton. This evening, we are going to have a public hearing regarding the MBTA Communities Act. At this point, I can see that we have the full contingent of board members present, so we are ready to, for business. I wanted to take a couple of minutes to kind of give you a thumbnail sketch as to how we got here. It will be reviewed later during part of the presentation. This evening, we have Jeff Davis from Horsley and Witten Company. He's a senior planner. They are a planning and engineering firm, specifically well-versed in the MBTA Communities Act. Sitting next to him over on the other side is Roberta Bryan. She is a member of the working group that we had, but she's also the chairwoman of the Zoning Board of Appeals for the town of Paxton. In front of them over there is Robert Birkbeck, our interim town administrator. We have Jeff Taska sitting here in the middle row, who is our permitting and community development coordinator. And we have the remaining members of the board here for the planning board. We also, on our committee working group, we had the pleasure of working with the fire chief, Chief Pingiatori, the director of the DPW, Travis Tebow, the building inspector, Dave Carl, and anybody else that really wanted to come to the meetings and give us input as we started the process. This began almost 30 months ago with the selection or the choosing of some members of the community on certain boards to form the working group. At the time, the town administrator, Heather Monroe, selected a group of citizens from committees and this and that to start the process. Many of you are aware that last year, around this time, we started with the updating of the zoning rules and regs in town, and we had a special town meeting last November. And then subsequent to that, we had the general election in May, and the updated zoning bylaws were passed at that point and put into effect. Part of the process of this undertaking was to work to successfully comply with the MBTA Communities Act. And it's been a rather detailed process. We had different consultants. As I said, Jeff is here from Horsley and Witten. We had the Central Mass Regional Planning Commission that worked with us. But we're where we are tonight because of the efforts of everybody involved. So during the hearing, if you would like to address, raise your hand. We'll get you a microphone. Please identify yourself with your name and address, just so we have an understanding of where you might be coming from. Those of you online, on Zoom, you can find some way to get a hold of our host here in the audience, Jeff Taska. You're running it, correct? Okay. And we will make sure that we address all concerns. This process tonight is for the planning board to select 4 warrant articles for the special town meeting December 1st, 2 of the 4 properties in play at this point. They're located at various cross-sections in town. Some of you here in the audience or at home on Zoom may have partaken in the survey. We had 180 respondents to that survey, and we have some interesting results to share with you this evening. So I guess with that, I'm ready to go, so I'm going to turn it over to Jeff. I'm sorry, Roberta, do you have anything you wanted to add at this point? All right, Jeff, we'll just let you start with your process.
Great. Well, again, my name is Jeff Davis of the Horsley Witten Group, and we are here providing free technical assistance to the town through an MBTA Communities grant managed by the Massachusetts Housing Partnership. So a little bit of background, and for those of you who have attended any of the prior community meetings regarding MBTA communities, this will be a bit repetitive, so bear with me. But just to give everyone else, particularly those maybe watching at home, some more context. This is all predicated by the passage by the legislature of Section 3A of Massachusetts General Law, Chapter 40A. Which is otherwise known as the MBTA Communities Act. And through this act, MBTA communities, which is any community in Massachusetts that has an MBTA station within its boundaries, or those that are adjacent to a community that has one, all these communities must have at least one zoning district in which multifamily housing is permitted by right. And for reference, by right can include site plan review. In addition, there has to be allowed at a gross density of at least 15 units per acre for those that have a transit asset in their community. A certain portion of the district has to be located within a half a mile of that transit station, which of course is not applicable in Paxton. There can be no age restrictions. So in other words, the housing that is allowed must be suitable for families with children. And in other words, no cap on bedrooms or occupancy. And there has to be parity with other uses. So, for example, if multifamily housing is one use among many within the zone, you can't require multifamily housing to meet higher standards than other uses. So, specifically in Paxton is considered an adjacent small town, and that means you have different standards to follow compared to communities that do have a transit station within their boundaries. Your compliance deadline was the last of the communities, coming up on December 31st of this year. You are required to hit a minimum multifamily housing unit capacity of 84 units. And basically the way the states determine this is by taking 5% of the housing units reported in the 2020 census for Paxton. And of course, like every other MBTA community, the minimum gross density of 15 units per acre. Unlike a lot of other communities, you have no minimum land requirement and no location requirement. It can be anywhere in town, with some exceptions that I will go over in a second. So I think it's really important to understand what these targets mean, what they don't mean, and what they don't mean, it does not require that multifamily housing be built. So compliance is strictly based on the zoning that you adopt and if that zoning meets the state's standards. So no housing has to be built. Also, this law does not compel communities to design or pay for new infrastructure to accommodate multifamily development. So in other words, if you do not have the water and sewer capacity to support residential development at this density, you do not have to approve it at that density. You only have to approve what your utilities can support. And likewise, the law does not supersede Wetlands Protection Act or Title V. So all those environmental regulations are still in place, and they rule. So again, if under those acts, those codes, you can't hit that density that's required, that's fine. So no one's going to require you to break environmental law to accommodate housing. So what I like to tell people is remember that zoning is a menu, not a development plan. So this is just adding a potential option to the menu of your zoning. So another thing that's really important to know, I said, MBTA community district can go anywhere in Paxton, which is true. However, across all the communities, you are not allowed to place these on publicly owned land. So whether that be town of Paxton owned land, or of course the city of Worcester owns a lot of land within Paxton, not allowed to place it on those areas. Also not allowed to place it on a water body or a wetland or any of the setbacks required around a wetland. You cannot place it on conservation land. You cannot place it within the town's watershed protection district unless you are willing to waive some of the standards of the watershed protection district. And you cannot place it on an educational or institutional use, again, unless you get explicit permission from that institution to proactively allow housing. So, for example, Anna Maria College was something that was kicked around for a while, but we don't have that permission from them, and so placing the district there would not be allowed. On top of these things that the state disallows, when the committee came together to think through potential locations, the preference was not to put this on parcels that have existing homes. So affordable housing. So this is one of the topics that every municipality has complete control over in terms of whether you require affordable housing or not. And that's going to be one of the things that are on the table for discussion tonight, whether the town would like to require affordable housing within this district. If you do, the state says you can require no more than 10% of units be affordable to households making no less than 80% of the average area median income. Now there are some exceptions to this. You could increase that to 20% by conducting an economic feasibility analysis, but you would have had to have done that months ago. So really tonight we'll be deciding whether or not to require affordable housing, either none at all or up to that 10%. I wanted to give you a little bit of information on the feedback we received from the survey. Again, as Neil pointed out, we got 180 responses, which was fantastic. And we were asked everyone to rate and rank 4 potential properties, one on Asnabumskett, one on Pleasant, one on West, and one on Grove. And for each of these, the public was asked whether you support, somewhat support, or do not support each site. So the results, when you combined the results for people who support or somewhat support, the highest percentage was the West Street property, where 64% of respondents support or somewhat support, followed by Asnabumskett at 58%. Dropped off from there, Pleasant was less than half, 49%, which meant 51% said they do not support, and Grove Street was 33%, so a full 2/3 of respondents did not support that site. I wanted to go over very quickly where those preferred locations are based on the survey. Again, on West Street, 64% support or somewhat support. So this is a 55-plus acre parcel right on the border of Spencer. So what we are proposing here is to take only approximately 6 acres, just over 6 acres of this property to designate as the MBTA Communities District. So that would have frontage right on West Street, right as you approach the border to Spencer. And as you look at these maps, you'll notice some yellow hash marks. These yellow hash marks denote excluded land. So in Paxton, that's generally areas that are unbuildable because of environmental reasons, as we went over previously. So we also want to make sure that 6 acres is outside of the excluded lands. The property with the second highest favorability rating, 58% support or somewhat support, was 95 Asnabumskett Road. This is approximately 6.9 acres. We would suggest designating that whole parcel. This property is on the border with Holden. And again, you see there are no excluded lands within this particular parcel. So, after you all decide as a community which of these two, and I'll go over at the end if you want to see exactly where the other 2 parcels were on Pleasant and Grove that were less preferred. But for now, I wanted to go over what the zoning would actually say. And it's pretty simple. So this is zoning that your Regional Planning Commission had started and I inherited and tried to clean up and simplify. The biggest change here, of course, is that multifamily is allowed by right. That's sort of the basis of this whole law. And currently, multifamily is not an allowed use in town. So that's, of course, a major change. Minimum lot area, we're suggesting that there be no minimum lot area, particularly because you're talking about either one parcel or a portion of one parcel. So to talk about minimum lot area doesn't make a whole lot of sense in this context. But we're looking at a maximum building and parking coverage. So any building and surface parking could cover no more than 30% of that property. That you'd have a front yard setback of at least 40 feet, rear of at least 30, minimum side yard setback of at least 25. And I will say, as I've said before, you have a lot of flexibility in setting these standards and still meeting the state's requirements. So practically everything else I'm going to go over tonight is flexible. Maximum building height is pretty consistent with what you allow elsewhere in town. 35 feet or 2.5 stories, which I believe is what you allow for single-family homes as well. Minimum lot frontage of 80 feet. Parking of 1.75 spaces per dwelling unit. Again, that's something you can play with. Affordable units, again, up to you tonight to decide whether to require affordable units or not. And we do want to confirm that the two potential locations that had the highest scores are both located outside your water protection district. Also want to discuss a little bit what the zoning does for design of buildings on these properties. So unlike a 40B, if people are familiar with the 40B program, which basically allows a developer to bypass your zoning if they're providing a certain percentage of affordable housing within their development, anything that's developed under the MBTA Communities Act has to comply with your local zoning. And that means, one, going through site plan review. So for those of you who aren't familiar, when someone proposes a development that comes to the town, the planning board sees that first, but then through site plan review, that's looked at by your Board of Health, your Conservation Commission, your Building Commissioner, the Water Department, the Highway Superintendent, and any other group in town that is deemed necessary. So this is getting a lot of scrutiny at the local level. So what does that mean? Basically, if the site plan complies with all your design standards that's in your zoning today, it shall be approved. So there isn't that subjectivity that you might have with a special permit, but still, again, a great deal of review. And so the town, the planning board, is allowed to consider all sorts of things when they're approving something through site plan review. You can look at your vehicle and pedestrian safety, parking and loading, landscaping, screening and buffering, surface water runoff, contamination of groundwater, hazardous substances, smoke, vapors, fumes, any other environmental hazards, and also time and operations. So you have the authority to review any development proposal under MBTA communities against these things. So beyond what you already are allowed to review via site plan, this new zoning, the text that has been drafted has a number of building and site design standards to help guide what any development would look like. So there are standards currently for lighting, for shared outdoor space, to make sure you have a consistent facade design in terms of placement of entries, windows, the types of materials that can be used on the facade, requirements to place parking to the rear or side so that it's not in the front of the building, to orient the building towards the street, to have consistent pedestrian network, and clear entryways, and so on and so forth. So there are a number of things you can do to concretely shape what development looks like. So the major discussion points for this evening, again, after the conversation about which locations are preferred, really want to try and nail down, would you like to pursue affordable housing in this district or not? And then of everything I just presented, are you comfortable with development standards, or dimensional standards? Are there other dimensional standards you'd like to explore? Are you comfortable with the parking requirements, the 1.7 spaces per unit? And are you comfortable with the development standards, so sort of the design standards for development? And just very quickly, just to give you some context, here are the sites on Pleasant Street that received less than 50% approval, support or somewhat support, and also on Grove Street. And I should note this parcel on Grove Street, which was the least favorable, made it to the list because the property owner volunteered this location for inclusion. So with that, I will turn it back over to Neil.
Okay, thanks, Jeff. So at this point, you kind of had the overview. This is another repeat of an information session, and I'd welcome any comments from those in attendance here or via Zoom, whatever we're seeing. As we start this, you can grab a microphone. As I said, just identify yourself, name and address. That's great. The biggest thing in not complying, if we can't get this thing across the finish line, either, not tonight, but December 1st or by December 31st, the big picture here is what the financial impact would be to the town. So previously, I asked Robert Birkbeck, the interim administrator here, for some numbers based on the last 5 years of history. And it's kind of staggering in terms of what we receive in terms, this is state grant only, this is not federal money. But just to give you a quick overview, in fiscal year '22, we had roughly $600,000. In '23, we had $625,000. In fiscal '24, $650,000. Fiscal '25, we approached $750,000. And year-to-date, in fiscal '26, we're at $673,000. If you add those numbers up, it's somewhere in excess of $3.2 million. Now, if we don't comply, we will not be able to apply for any grants that are out there. So that burden of things that need to be done in this town, projects for whatever, it's going to fall on the residents, the tax base here, to support those types of programs. I was at a select board meeting 3 weeks ago, thereabout, plus or minus, and the police department, Sergeant Thorpe, stood up and said that they had received through September something like almost $86,000 worth of grants. So that allows the police department, and I'm just picking on them because that was one that I was in attendance of, but that allows them to do other things outside of what we'll say taxpayer-based revenue in terms of training and radios and body armor and things like that. So, and it doesn't fall on the backs of the residents here. So I think that's a significant point to keep in mind. I see a lot of pensive faces here. Who wants to be the first to ask a question? Roger, please grab a microphone. I happen to know who this gentleman is, so.
Good evening. My name is Roger Brunel. I live at 28 Warbridge Road. I'm the town moderator. I have a question. What's the maximum number of units that could be built if on whatever parcel is chosen?
I don't think there's any way to concretely answer that before someone actually submits a development proposal. Again, I want to reiterate that changing your zoning is a menu and not a development proposal. So we wouldn't know until, if someone came in and proposed something and you came back and said, well, geez, according to the water and sewer that we have available, or what you'd be able to accommodate through Title V, you can only have 20 units here, or 5, I don't know. But you can, the important thing is you can take all those things into consideration when you determine that final number.
Okay.
All that aside, there's limits built into this. So if everything goes great, there's enough water, there's enough sewer, there's enough everything, what's the maximum number?
The absolute maximum number would be 84 units. I can't imagine any scenario where that would actually occur.
You have to decide.
Okay. And just to follow up on that, I'll just use the example of the primary property chosen. Which was number 1 on the survey?
West.
All right. So West Street. So if that turned out that we overlaid 6 or 7 acres somewhere like that, and they started doing exploratory work for perk tests and whatever, and they found that there was ledge or there was, high groundwater. I'm just making up excuses here for things. That 84 units that they're going to try to place on that could be cut down to, let's just say 50 or 40 or something like that. If we looked at the other site that was chosen, which is Asnabumskett Road, Some of the residents have contacted me, and I've talked with people about could they handle the traffic from 84 units, and I'm not sure what would happen. So to follow up on your question and the answer here, that 84 units could end up being, let's just say 30 or 25. There may be ledge up there. There may be other issues that we haven't uncovered yet, and it's not the responsibility of the town at this point to make that known. A developer would come, look at the site, say, okay, I'm interested in that. Let's do our exploratory engineering work and come back with some feasibility study and then talk to the planning board. The critical part here, as Jeff has mentioned and we've talked about before, this is a compliance measure. We're trying to stay in compliance with what the state wants us to do, and that's where we're at tonight. So, excellent question. Who wants to be next? Who's on? There you go, Jeff.
I have an online question.
Please.
Two questions from Mr. Michael Benoit. He would like to be unmuted and speak.
Okay. How do we do that?
Sorry.
Okay, no, that's fine. Just abracadabra. Michael.
Good evening.
Yes, sir.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay, Michael Benoit, 18 Lincoln Circle. Thank you for all your efforts on this. Just a couple questions. As we've talked at length over the last couple of years about economic development, and obviously we know that business with a single tax rate doesn't really bring us additional tax revenue. Why not just do all of these sites? That's my first question.
We've had discussions about that, and I think the acceptance by the town at this point, we're going to take baby steps. As Roger just asked the question, what's the maximum? 84 units, that would be great, but to put all sites in play right now at this point, it's just, we really weren't. Roberta, you want to chime in?
I don't want to interrupt, but I just wanted to let you know that I wanted to say something.
No, go ahead. I'll let, because I'm kind of fumbling here, because I
Okay.
know we've had discussions
Yeah.
privately and then Zoom meetings ourselves, just on the
Sure.
committee.
I think, Michael, Roberta, Brian here, I think that is a big step, to Neil's point. I think the town is not quite prepared to address all four parcels with this. But I do think, truly, over the past few months that we've been talking to people, it does open the door for an opportunity to look at our zoning and come back with something as simple as allowing multifamily housing. Right now, we don't allow duplexes. We also had a great suggestion from a resident at one of the Council on Aging meetings that talked about creating a zone where someone could, almost like an accessory dwelling unit on steroids, do more housing on their parcel that they own. So I think this just affords the town an opportunity with some thoughtful planning and zone changes over time. I do agree this 84 units on any parcel, not that I personally think this is ever going to be built, given the constraints that we all know we have in the town of Paxton, but I do think it is not quite in line with the character of what we've seen for development occur. We've seen single-family subdivisions, we've seen the affordable housing 55 and over, or the 55 and over housing, but we haven't seen something like this. But I do think we should pass it, and I do think we should take the opportunity to start to look at our zoning to bring in different types of housing, agreed for tax purposes, but also just for diversity of housing, affordability in town, little a affordability. So appreciate, Michael, your enthusiasm. Wish we had found you a year ago, but appreciate your enthusiasm for this, and I think it would be a great goal and a great achievement if the town would pass one and then really seriously continue to look at our zoning going forward for other types of housing.
Well, right, we have a self-limiter, and that's our wonderful Paxton soil, right? When you really think about it. We don't have sewers, so, which is wonderful, right? So that's kind of a very good controlling interest. The other question I have is, was Anna Maria College ever considered?
It was, and as Jeff mentioned earlier, maybe you didn't see the first slides that came up there.
No, I didn't get on about.
All right, that's fine. So the answer to the question was we originally had thought about it, and then we said, no, we can't do it, and then there was a change in administration. I think there's a new president at Anna Maria. the working group has had a meeting with him, and there just wasn't enough time to have the board of directors of the college get together, take a presentation from us as to how and why. So at this point, it was off the table. We couldn't move forward by the December 31st deadline.
Okay. No, just as a longtime vested interest in our municipal utilities, specifically electric for me, but also water, I'm sure that facility is our largest customer of both. And if in fact something ever did go awry over there, our ratepayers would be in a very difficult position. That's all. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Dennis Gorman, 11 Pond Street, Paxton. I guess I just have more comments than questions.
That's what we're here for.
I'm going to leave you guys with a question. But I grew up in a three-decker in Worcester, and my philosophy would be if you want to have three-deckers, there's plenty of them in Worcester, and feel free to move there and find one. We have a beautiful town we live in. It's a wonderful residential town. I did some quick research this afternoon, and it looks like 42 to 45% of the town land is dedicated to the city of Worcester, the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, and/or restricted by land trusts and agricultural preservation restrictions. So that doesn't even include Anna Maria College and cemeteries and other stuff. So quite frankly, we've dedicated a big chunk of our town to the benefit of a whole bunch of other people. And quite frankly, I'm personally offended by this statute. I think it's Boston trying to tell Paxton what we need to do with our property, and I quite frankly don't see where they have any right to do it, and it's not right. And I'll leave you with this one. And by the way, I'm glad to see the Spencer, the West Street property is the most popular, because that would be the furthest out of the way, so people aren't bothered by it. But quite frankly, with that parcel being at least 11 to 12 miles away from the nearest train station, how on earth is this project going to benefit MBTA riders? If somebody can explain that to me, because you're going to have to drive to get to some MBTA place. So it doesn't serve any purpose, in my view.
Okay. I can try to answer some of it, but it's based more on a personal feeling at this point. When this process started, Governor Baker at the time signed the MBTA Communities Act into law. And one of the things it was trying to do was find more, I'm going to say, affordable housing. So there was a slide during one of the information sessions that we had that the average price of a home in Paxton right now is give me some leeway, but let's just say $500,000. And for a family to afford a mortgage on that house, you're looking at an income stream of somewhere $130,000 to $135,000 to be able to afford the 28% numbers that the banks use and all of that. So one of the other interesting facts that came out was we have a lot of employees of the community here, whether it be teachers, firefighters, DPW workers, and town employees in general. And I'm not sure that the average teacher pay through the Wachusett region right now was $54,000, $55,000, somewhere in there. So it doesn't allow them to live in the communities that they're serving. And I take your point that they could go back to Worcester and live in a three-decker and commute. But that's not really what the intent of the community is. We're trying to find a way to make this more, I'm going to use the word wholesome. We have a wonderful community here. It's very rural in nature. And by the simple act of not having sewers and not having town water throughout the entire community, there's a lot of wells in town, it might help that Paxton would become a little more friendly, I guess is where I'm going with this. And as I said in a couple of presentations, Mr. Gorman, there are two or three camps in this town. People that don't want to see it, I'll take, you don't want to do that, so I'm going to kind of put you on that side. Then there are people that say, let's do everything. Let's get all 84 units, as Mr. Benoit put out. Let's do all 4 parcels in play and get it all here. And maybe at some point in the future that would happen. But there's also the group of people that really feel we need to be more inclusionary. And that's where I'm saying we need to find a way to bring some of these employees into our community and welcome them to be able to live here and afford here. So I hope that helps.
Thanks, Neil.
Take the microphone, please.
Dennis Dowd, South Street, Paxton. First of all, they keep throwing around this thing about this $55,000. If you're a teacher at Wachusett, you can't afford a house. Yet most people nowadays are 2-income families. So when you're using $55,000, that's not really, I don't think, a fair, accurate assessment as to who can buy a house, because you've got a husband, a wife, and a significant other. So if you double that, you're up, $110,000, $120,000, which does make it a little bit more closer to the level that you could afford the mortgage. The second thing is, on this voting, it looks to me like this was a ranked voting. And, because do we have the information as to what the number 1 choice was, what the number 2 choice was? Because it looks like, with all these percentages, it looks like you ranked 1, 2, 3, 4, as opposed to what was the number 1 choice that people wanted for this possible development. Is that information available?
Jeff, is that
Yes.
available?
So we did add the Grove Street property after the survey had opened, so it's hard to compare apples to apples with the ranked answers. However, even considering that Grove Street entered late, it was still well on the bottom. So of the other 3, Asnabumskit, if you ask people to say 1, 2, 3, 4, which would be your ranked
If you're only
choice,
going to pick one choice.
Asnabumskit came in first, followed by Weston Pleasant.
Okay.
Not by, well, and I will, the other thing I think it's important to note, there was more disagreement about Asnabumskit, so even though it was the number 1 choice for the most people, there were also more people on the opposite end rating it lower,
Right.
whereas West was more evenly distributed.
And just another comment, too, is, the planning board seemed to be thrilled that they got 180 responses to this survey, yet you look at the number of registered voters in town, 180 out of whatever, 2,000 or whatever, it's pretty pathetic that only 180 people chose, to vote on this matter. And, I don't know what the problem is, whether the information's not getting out to people, whether they need to have a town meeting to discuss this rather than putting it on the boards and on the internet and stuff. But I don't think that, that was a very good turnout. The last point I want to make, because I don't want to hog up the microphone, is that the planning board sort of voted to place the possible development in the largest acreage, which I want to know, would that also entice somebody to come in and develop the other 49 acres after you put 6 acres of low-income housing in?
Wait, now, we have to have a clarification, and it's not,
Yep.
it's not low-income housing.
Or moderate, whatever.
No, it's housing.
It's
It's just
Whatever-
a housing
whatever you
zone.
wanna
That's
call
okay.
it.
And then the town has I just want to go back a couple of comments. There was a lot. I'm going to try to keep
Yep.
up. But we brought the 4 parcels. We had to rank them in some way. We're trying to get to 2 to bring to town meeting and have a discussion at town meeting.
Right.
So everyone that's here is doing the right thing by coming and talking about the 4. If someone came in and said, I really love Pleasant Street, and everyone here agreed, and we could justify it with the survey, but we had to start somewhere. So don't assume that because we've brought 2, and we've told you that these are the top 2, that those are the top 2 that the planning board is going to vote on tonight. No vote has been taken. But those are the 2 that we think got the most attention in order to have a frank discussion tonight with those people that are online, with the planning board, with those people that are here. Regarding the 180 surveys, I do think that's a success. I remember town meeting where Chuck Putney would call me and say, you have to come to town meeting, we don't have a quorum. And that was 50. So I really think 180 is a success. I think we got...
disagree on that.
Okay, we can disagree on that. But I don't see any other way, other than knocking on doors, that we could have got people's attention. It was in 2 newspapers, It was on the town website. We've had 4 meetings in person. We had flyers dropped off at businesses in town. I attended meetings personally, Council on Aging, library. So other than knocking on doors, no other way that we could have gotten the information out. It was mentioned at multiple select board meetings, multiple planning board meetings, my zoning board of appeal meetings. My information has been out there for people to contact me at any point in time. So I don't think there's any other way to have gotten the word out. But if you have ideas, please join a board or committee, and we will socialize that amongst all of
What I'm
ours.
saying is that like last November, when we had the question about the zoning article, I mean, that auditorium was filled. You had to turn people away. So I don't know how you got people out to that. We couldn't
Because
get
false
people
information was out there, and people were
to this,
responding to
so,
that.
you know.
so.
Mr. Dowd, how did you find out about this tonight?
Because I went to the meeting about a month ago up at the Paxton Center School, like at the senior center.
Okay, but so you took the initiative at some point, somehow or other, you found that little thread to then follow through to get to this point tonight.
Right, and
Okay.
everybody else may not. A lot of other people in town didn't even bother
Okay,
or didn't know it was there, so.
okay. I mean, still today, I will say to you tonight, probably as a fact, I would probably bet a lot of money on it, that we'll come to the meeting December 1st and people will come and say, what's this all about? I didn't know anything about this.
I agree.
So, I mean, we're trying to do everything we can. I already talked a little bit with Robin before I got here, but she has been spearheading the information on Facebook throughout the community. Lori Becker at the town hall, the clerk, has been getting this information out there to whatever groups want to find it. And you know, the old story is if you find out about it and you tell 2 people, they'll tell 2 people, and before you know it, our 4,000 registered voters will, you know.
I mean, I happen to, you know, the town, the paper that comes out, whatever, once a month or something, I mean, there was a little bleb on the bottom of it. That's the only reason I found out about it.
Okay.
I happened to read that. I mean, a lot of people get the paper, they throw it away. A lot of people are seniors, they don't even go on the internet to know what's going on. If they don't go by the center of town and see what's on the bulletin board in front of the town hall or in front of the police station, they don't know what's going on. So I don't know what a better way is to get this out to all these people in town. But I don't think 180 people was that good to vote on compared with the amount of people in town. I just don't know, you know, and maybe it's apathetic people, but I think it should have been better than that. But going back to the original question about the 55 acres, if they develop the 6 acres for whatever, the moderate income housing, what can they do with the other 49 acres? Is that going to be open to development too?
No, the property owner would have to agree to sell the balance of it, and then that property is zoned single-family. So a developer would have to make an arrangement with the property owner to then just develop single-family on the balance of the 6 acres.
And one final question, what's the status of the 4 properties with the owners selling it? Because I remember at the meeting that I went to at, you know, the senior center, they were supposed to contact the 3 owners, not the Grove Street, the other 3, because they were out-of-town owners. Is there any update on that?
No, we've contacted them. They were contacted.
Nobody's responded back?
That's coming.
Yes, Mr. Gorman, yes.
One thing I neglected to mention was I actually represent the people that own, you know, the Keyway Properties people. They own 280 acres. That's the Pleasant Street parcel. That's a bigger. That's actually
Parcel behind the
well, it's the whole thing, but it includes the Whitehead property, right? So it's 285 acres, I think, total. And I've been working with, the state is very interested in adding that to Moore State Park because it abuts Moore State Park. So I can tell you as we're sitting here that I'm trying to get the DCR, the landowners, and the Greater Worcester Land Trust, Alan Fletcher, I spoke to him, together so that we can preserve that property and add it to Moore State Park. Okay, so I think that people should.
Can I just ask a timeline for that? Is that a year? Is that 5 years? Is that in the next
I've
decade?
been trying to actually connect these dots, and for whatever reason, it's been like pulling teeth, but I'm not giving up.
Okay.
Because I know the Urbanovich property is also being, I think there's discussions with the state and Greater Worcester Land Trust to preserve that, and I've also tried to connect them with the Erskines to try to tie all that together too. So if that ever happened, that would be amazingly wonderful, because you'd end up with 1,500 acres of protected land that would all be connected to Morse State Park. So that's just an FYI. Sorry, I neglected to
No,
mention.
that's fine. As I said, that's a maybe. We're not sure when and how, or a big if, but I commend you for trying. I think that's a good thing. I mean, we're all about, yes, grab the microphone, please.
Thank you. My name is thanks. My name is Anne Marie Stoica. My husband and I live at 75 Grove Street, and we have for about 42 years. I don't have a question, but I have some thoughts that I'd like to share, and I'm happy to see that my thoughts are consistent with the survey. Speaking to people, it seems like they fall into one of two schools of thought. The first are people who don't want any multifamily units to be built, so they want the selected site to be the one that's least likely to be developed. The second group are people who would welcome the building of multifamily units because it would produce more taxpayers, and that would help with our town's fiscal position. So I think if we're picking two sites, and we are, I guess, maybe we should move forward with one from each of the two camps, and that would be consistent with the survey. One that's not likely to ever be developed, and one that is more likely to someday be developed and generate some revenue. Then the vote in the next step of this process would tell us what the majority of the Paxtonites think. Do we want more tax revenue, or do we want less development? That seems to make sense to me. Therefore, I would support going forward with Asnabumskett, because I think the general feeling is that that's the least likely one to be developed. And then one of the other three, and I would like to see either the Pleasant Street or the West Street, and not the Grove Street. My reasons, and it's not just because I live there, but I was pleased to see that it was lowest in the survey because of traffic. First of all, we live on Grove Street. We have everybody's normal traffic like everybody else, but we also get the Anna Maria College traffic, and we get the traffic from the hills. So, and if you're coming, so we get more traffic than most of the trucks and blah, blah, blah. Also, if you're coming up from Holden, like from the Big Y, and you get to the top there where the blinking light is, if you're trying to turn left, even with the traffic just as it is now, you take your life into your hands. That can be a tough one. And coming out on Grove Street onto Pleasant, sometimes it's a little tough depending on the time of day and everything, especially turning left to get down to Worcester. And as for fairness, I think because Grove Street already has Anna Maria College and the hills, I think we've done our share. So I think it would be nice to spread the wealth and let that go to either West Street or Pleasant Street. So I'm hoping, and dare I say we're hoping, that that you'll vote to put forward Asnabumskett and then either West or Pleasant.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, Jeff.
I've got a comment from Mr. Paul Flynn,
Oh,
property
one
owner,
of-
I'd like to read. I do need a mic, don't I?
Yeah, Bruno, hand him the. So, Mr. Flynn is the property owner at 95 Asnabumskett, just for everybody's edification here.
Okay. Mr. Flynn's in the chat, and his comment is, I have been in contact with the town since August of last year. Last public meeting, I thought I made it clear that as the owner of 95 Asnabumskett, I am opposed to the rezoning of the property.
Okay. That,
All right, I'll message him, see if he has anything further.
That's
We'll
fine.
jump him back in.
that's fine. I do believe we reached out to him via certified mail, and I don't recollect a response.
No response. I do recall Mr. Flynn on the last Zoom meeting, and he did chat in that meeting as well, brought up issues related to the towers being on the property and whether or not the towers could stay on the property, which of course they can. This is just an overlay, so all underlying zoning, even if it's already an overlay, would remain on the property. Does not force the property owner to make any changes to the contract for the towers or to suddenly remove the towers or anything like that. It doesn't force any property owner to do anything with their property that they don't want to do. I think I've used the example before that if you're in a business zone and you have a home on that, you don't have to suddenly start a business or open a business. You continue to use your property the way it is. So underlining zoning will remain on the property, and no changes would have to be made ever. It's just a layer, a menu, as Jeff likes to call it, an opportunity if someone wanted to take it, but no requirement to do anything differently with your property. And Mr. Flynn, I hope if you would contact us for more information, if you need any more information.
Okay. Yes, Jeff?
Mr. Flynn further adds, the fall zone requirements for the towers preclude the development of buildings.
So I did look at the fall zone requirements. The Zoning Board of Appeals has in the past had applications for towers come before the board. And the fall zone requirements state that a tower must be sited on the property in such a way that should it fall, it still remain on the property, so that the siting must be that the tower, 2.5 times the height of the tower, 2 times the height of the tower, must be accommodated in the fall zone, so that there's no opportunity for the tower to fall out of the property and onto someone else's property. So in this area of Asnabumskett, there are other towers that exist up on that property in that area. And so a building could be built on 95 Asnabumskett, because those properties would also be required to follow that same fall zone guideline. But I just want to clarify, I agree with Mr. Flynn, you couldn't put, I don't think you could put a building, a home with the tower. I think it has to be because of that fall zone in either or. So again, development not likely, to Ms. Stoika's point, not likely in that area unless the property owner decided to end the lease with the tower company.
And that would be true if there was an apartment building on there now, or a swimming pool, or anything.
Anyone else? I did receive yesterday, and I believe you were copied on it, a letter from one of the residents on Grove Street. And Mrs. Stoika, this kind of goes contrary to what you're saying. So with your, I would like to indulge you to read this. I promised the individual they can't be here tonight. They're traveling. But I received this yesterday afternoon around 5:30. Comments come from John and Ronnie Pender Cudlip at 508 Pleasant Street. I'm reading this. This is not, I'm just going for it here. All right, so the town must choose one site. Failure to do so would be fiscally folly. Selecting the Asnabumskett site would be merely paying lip service to the law for reasons already aired, septic, water, road. However, if selected, it must be approved. That would or should be pressure applied subsequently to approve another site. The key consideration is, does the town want to see multifamily affordable housing built in town? It has been established that the school system can handle the expected number of additional children without need for expansion. The increase to the residential tax base can only be a benefit to the town, and we believe the answer to be yes and embrace the development. Now, Asnabumskett Hill, choice, this is their take, not the take from the survey. So I'm just reading what I've got here. Asnabumskett Hill, choice should be 4. Should not be selected as development as a non-starter as mentioned above. Disclosure, we have friends who live opposite that site. Grove Street, in their understanding, is that should be choice number 1. Strongly recommend. Easiest site to hide, like the hills. Probably the easiest site to develop, as the town water should be easy to hook up. The entire site should be made available so that there can be a nice entrance and road to the buildings, with perhaps one house near Grove Street. Increased traffic on Grove Street should be a concern, especially at intersections with Holden Road and Pleasant Street. A 3-way stop sign should be placed at the Holden Road intersection and wouldn't be amiss to the Maple Street intersection. This would improve the driving experience on Route 31, a major road. The intersection with Pleasant Street is more problematic due to the regular accidents. A 3-way stop sign should solve the problem, but might be difficult to get used to. Then they reference the new traffic pattern on Route 56 and Marshall Street. asking how that works out. Disclosure, we live at the intersection of Pleasant and Grove, so full-time traffic lights would be annoying. Our vote is for a three-way stop sign. The Pleasant Street near Rutland Line, their choice number 2, best developed with a driveway to an estate down an access road to keep the development relatively hidden. Sight lines on Pleasant Street would have to be examined closely for safety purposes, perhaps resulting in a yellow or red flashing light. Disclosure, we have friends that live on Pleasant Street within a mile. They're very popular in this town. They have friends everywhere. The last one is West Street, which is their choice number 3. Probably difficult to hide enough of the units due to the patches of wetland. It would likely require some building and is what now open space, thereby spoiling the view. And then could there be access to Nanigan Road? I believe you received the same comments. I think you were copied on the email. And I told them I would read that here tonight. So again, it's another side of the same kind of discussion. That's all. So anybody else online, Jeff? Yeah, yes, please grab the microphone. I want to make sure you're all heard.
Hi, it's on. My name is Martha Axton. I live at 268 Richards Ave in Paxton. I was on the committee that helped to build the Hills, this housing, the apartments on Grove Street, and it was like pulling teeth. But I just want to be on the record that I am in favor of moderate living conditions in the town of Paxton. To your point, well, we got to consider 2 incomes. If $55,000 and $55,000 is still $110,000, which is not enough to afford a home in Paxton. I've talked to people at the senior center, and they said, but what if I want to downsize my home but want to stay in town? I can't do that now. There's no option for me because the Hills have a waiting list. So I think we have to not be of the mentality of, well, I'm here, I'm putting a toll gate at the town borders and nobody else can move into town. I think that's short-sighted. I don't think it's Christian. I think we're better than that as a town. And I think we should welcome mechanics and teachers and people who are making less than $60,000 a year, which, I mean, just to have to be able to say that, I almost feel like saying shame on us. But I think we should open the doors and welcome people, and I appreciate that there are efforts to preserve land in town, but when we moved in 1988, I remember Brigham Hill was a field, and there was just that little farmhouse up at the top. And Grove Street had those colonials that were there that are built now weren't there. Brooks Road was a dirt road. Things change. We live next to the second largest city in New England. Not in Massachusetts, the second largest city in New England. And I think in all of our discussions, we have to keep that in mind and remember that. We're not Hardwick, we're not New Braintree, we're not Cummington, we're next to Worcester. And I don't think we're doing justice to people by closing our doors and saying, we don't want you. I'd rather have 200 acres preserved than have 15 homes with people living in them. That's all.
Thank you. Just to follow up on a point, I've been kind of letting it stew here a little bit. Mr. Dowd, to address you in terms of 180 respondents, and that's kind of dismal. I disagree. I agree with Roberta that it was a good, I guess, turnout for that. However, when you look at politics in this town and how they're decided at town meetings, I mean, as she mentioned, sometimes we don't get a quorum together for 50, and those 50 people or 51 people decide what happens. And again, if we go to the special town meeting in December and there's 200 or 300 people, that's maybe twice what responded to the survey, but those 300 people or attendees at that point are going to decide what happens. Now, Jeff, I have a follow-up question for you, if you can help me here. Let's concentrate more on the negatives if this doesn't go. Never mind the financial that I addressed with the $3.2 million. But if we don't do this and we lose control of this and somebody comes in after the fact, because by right, the state could then come and say, no, you have to do this, correct?
We don't know exactly what the state is going to do, but we know that the Supreme Judicial Court has said that the state, the Attorney General's office, has the authority to enforce the law. And, you know, no one has pushed their luck yet to see what exactly that looks like. But in theory, they could say, yes, you have to approve this since you haven't.
And if by doing that, we lose some of the local control, is that correct? Once the state...
I mean, in theory, yes.
Okay. That's the thing I want you to understand. We have no site plan review safety net. We have no review by any other committees in town. If it comes in, I want to put it there, and they say, okay.
Right. It becomes more like a 40B where your zoning gets bypassed.
So, yes, Chief.
Good evening. Mike Pingiatori, Fire Chief, also longtime Paxton resident. I just want to thank everybody for coming out tonight and online. This is what a small town is. You can have your opinions 100% heard here. I'll let everybody make up their own minds when it comes to town meeting on how you want to do it. I've been a part of the working group now for a while. I've met with Neil, Roberta, just about everybody here. When it comes to this, it's not favorable. I have to deal with state mandates all the time as the fire chief. It's sometimes tough to swallow. Sometimes we don't have the money to do it. So make up your own minds about it. But let me tell you this about multifamily dwellings. There are families now in this town, and a lot of them, that have multiple families living in these houses, okay? We go on ambulance calls, fire calls, we find apartments all the time. So the ADU law that came through last year was a huge help to us because it's bringing these people who can't otherwise afford to do an ADU or a multifamily dwelling unit, it's allowing them to just do it and get the permits and be fine. So we want to be safe. Myself, the building inspector, planning and zoning, I work constantly with these guys doing the site reviews, doing the plan reviews. We want people to be safe in their homes. We want to know that grandma and grandpa are living in the basement, right? And maybe they should be in a better spot than the basement, and it's okay. Things are expensive. In full disclosure, I live with my parents. I bought their house because it was getting too big for them. So these are the things that having the multifamily dwellings in town will help. I personally would rather not see all 4 sites done and built up because that would be a huge drain on my department. But we got to really think realistically. Thank you, Martha, for kind of sharing some of those points. And just rest assured that we will, as a department head, and I can say this for myself, we will put the town's needs above, you know, a developer's needs. So we're not going to sell you short when this happens. And I know this because I worked with Neil for a long time now, right? So, so just take those couple of facts into consideration that there are people in illegal apartments now, right? So that's all. Thank you.
Thank you, Chief. Comments coming? I hear beeping on the Zoom. Anybody want to speak that's there? No, they're just signing in or signing off?
They're coming in.
Oh, here we go.
They're coming and going.
Admitting them in.
Oh, all right.
Yeah.
The numbers are holding good, right around a couple dozen, give or take.
Okay.
I'll let you know if there's any comments. I'll raise
All
it
right.
again.
So I guess at this point, we've listened to questions and concerns and comments. I believe we're ready to close this hearing and let the planning board move on and make a selection. It was at the request, I guess, of, I'm going to say Jeff and Will and Town Council, that we go with 2 properties so that we could have a discussion at town meeting. That tends to increase the chances of success of approval of one of them. So just to fill you in a little bit, those of you at home and here, the idea with the moderator also present here tonight, we're going to have 2 warrant articles. Article 1 for property, whatever it is, and warrant Article 2 for whatever property that is. And before they're voted on, we're going to kind of take a straw poll or a discussion, just like we're having here with maybe the 300 people that are present that evening at the meeting, and try to get a consensus as to which way they're leaning. And we may put that article forward first to see if it passes, because then if it doesn't, that leaves the remaining article. It puts it in a very precarious situation because we voted one of them down. So that's just to kind of fill you in as to what's going to happen in the next month or so, the next 3 weeks. So.
Do you, Neil, before you close the hearing, do you want to ask for any opinions on the zoning bylaw?
Oh,
do we have the ability to?
Yes, because we also
put
have
that
that
up at all?
I'm not, can we put that up? Do we have it as a draft so we can put it up there? And do we want to have the inclusion of affordable housing? Just to highlight a little thing. Currently at the present rate, I believe we're at about 4.8% of the units in residential units in town are affordable. It's less than 5. The state requires that we try to get to 10%. So there are roughly, 1,500 dwelling units in town. Jeff, is that kind of what you found based on the 2020 count?
Well, let's see. Take
2% or 5% of
5% of
whatever.
Your total
Let's
number
say
is
1,500. So we would need a total of 150 affordable units to meet the state requirements for affordable. Now, go ahead.
I just want to make sure we're not mixing programs.
No, but I'm just saying that that's in here. Do we want to allow?
So
that's one of the big policy questions remaining.
Our inclusionary zoning, which we've already adopted and is in our bylaws, requires any development over 6 units to have 10% of affordability. So we could choose to adopt that. Or Jeff, I think because it has to be consistent, we would just choose to adopt the inclusionary, or could the town put in a specific affordability requirement if it chose to, other than 10%? Okay.
So you can't go any more than 10%, and I can't remember off the top of my head what your area median income limit is for your townwide inclusionary zoning. But we just have to make sure that is consistent as well. And if it's not, then we would just specify that here.
But the 40B is applicable to towns that have not reached 10% of affordability amongst all of their housing units. So we're not saying we have to get to 10% of affordability across all of our. It's just for this. So if it were 84 units, it would be 8 that have to be affordable.
Right. No, and I'm in agreement, or I'm in favor of the inclusionary that we have right now. So I'm just, this is the document, this is the draft form, because we were also contacted by the administrative assistant for the select board to find out what the wording was going to be for the warrant article for this draft of now the bylaw that will become section 16 of the town's zoning bylaws. So, yes, sir, Mr. Dowd.
I don't think it's fair that if we're going to go to a town meeting in December, that you limit it to just 2 properties. I think if you go 3 or 4, whatever, I understand you think it's easier to pass something, but I think if it's just limited to the 2, I don't think, the whole town that's going to show up at the town meeting is getting the full information about what properties were to be considered. And again, I know you guys are wonderful with your 180 responses, but whatever, how many registered voters in town? 4,000?
No.
2,000, whatever. So, if you're talking like 5% or 8% of the people. So I just don't think it should be just the 2. I think it should be 3 at least for the town meeting.
I think Mrs. Stroika brings up a good point, though. The parcels that were up for discussion, the 4, all have, 2 of them have similar characteristics, right? Pleasant and West. And Aston-Bumscott and Grove both have issues, whether it be traffic or ledge or perceived ledge or towers. So I think, again, because this is just an overlay, I think what we've done well, besides the 180, is we've chosen ones that represent something more easily developable and something more difficult. I think you bring up good points that, West Street or maybe it was Mr. Gorman, is further enough away. We thought about that for traffic. We heard a lot when when Neil and I stood at the polls during the override vote at the school that there was concern about traffic. So that's when we went back to the drawing board with Jeff and looked at parcels that were on the outskirts. And again, trying to stay away from a sensitive topic, which I think is putting an overlay on someone's single-family home. We intentionally selected properties that were vacant of structures. And then those just so happened, at least 3 of them, to not have property owners in town, that didn't live there and didn't live in town. So I think what we're worried about truly is that the town meeting becomes, well, why not, such and such a street, and what about over here, and did you look at that? It is an overlay zone. We've chosen 4 properties that are very different, but have characteristics that could meet the criteria, but also meet people's strategy. And I think our best bet. This is a great debate to talk about the 4 of them, which I think the planning board will do so. Hopefully, select 2, and then I think the further debate and the final debate to keep things in a manageable town meeting vote would be, in my opinion, to narrow it to 2 tonight and bring 2 there.
Right, but you're not taking into account that on any of these sites, people live around these sites, and you're not giving people the ability at a town meeting to express their thought because you've eliminated one site versus another site. People live in all these areas, and whether it's a little further out or a little bit closer, people live in all of these areas, and they would be affected if a development goes through. And I think the best forum is a town meeting where everybody is allowed to come and express their opinion. And I think you're sort of deciding for the town what should be decided by the town, not by the smaller group, in my opinion.
Well, I think Jeff has summarized it well, though, when he outlined the responses to the survey, that there is strategy, and some people did vote for Aston Bumskip because they do feel it's probably harder to develop, and some people did vote for West Street because they do feel that the town has a responsibility to allow or encourage for different types of housing. So I think you're going to that strategy will be utilized. And those people at town meeting that do show up, that maybe didn't get a chance to come here tonight or haven't had a chance to express their opinion since July, will be able to then vote in that strategized way to say,
you're only going to give them 2 choices at that meeting. That's what I'm saying. You're not expanding this to allow everybody at that town meeting to express their opinion on 4 sites. You've decided these are the 2 sites.
Well,
maybe the town doesn't want
But
those
again,
2 sites.
Mr. Dowd,
I'm
it was
saying that, in a democratic process of a town meeting, more people should have input than, this small amount of people here.
But again, we're basing the discussions this evening on those 180 respondents, and I'm going to put you on the spot. Did you fill out a survey?
Yes, I went to the town hall and filled out a survey.
Thank you. Everybody here that's in attendance, did you?
Yes.
I mean, I'm just curious, as if you did or you found out about it. Okay. No, that's fine.
On my computer.
That's fine. That's
Well,
fine.
you know what? I'll tell you what.
Okay.
My wife did the survey on her home computer, and then I went to do the survey on my home computer. We were locked out. So was it just 1 vote per household?
No, I
or
think it
1
was by
vote?
email address. Isn't that how it worked,
So-
Jeff?
By IP address.
Oh, IP. Oh.
Yeah, so the thing was, she didn't know what to do.
Well,
so I
maybe we got
actually-
360 responses.
Well, I had to go up to town hall to get my response heard. So again,
All right,
is that
I'm
a
just-
glitch in the system that people, again, didn't know how to get onto the voting procedure?
Well, I think it was a way of not allowing people to vote multiple times to skew the data. And
Right, yes,
yeah,
I understand that.
yeah.
Yeah, but like I say, you say 180, I mean, I would have voted at my house, not having to go up to town hall to do it. I happened to go up to the town hall because I did want to have my vote counted. Other people may just say, to heck with it, so.
Okay. All right. Anybody else have comments, concerns? Yes, sir. Please take the microphone.
David Stoica, 75 Grove Street. I have two comments. Right now, Grove Street is very busy. There's cars and there's kids driving faster than the speed limit. There's also trailer trucks making deliveries to Anna Maria and also down to the Big Y. And we have trucks coming up going to from Walmart to Walmart and other trucks. There's fully loaded cement trucks that are going down Grove Street as well, and they're not going the speed limit. They're going faster than the speed limit. And the traffic just for the school, regular cars, it's almost 24/7. You can wake up in the middle of the night and you hear cars go by. You know, the road's already failing between Orchard and Pleasant Street. It's cracked. It's been packed over. It's going to be dangerous at some point. The second comment is whose responsibility is it to decide right now what to put forward to the select board and to the voters?
It's the planning board. After we close the hearing tonight, the planning board will make a couple of motions and decide what we're going to do, and then those two decisions or three decisions will be put forward to the select board, I believe next Monday night, because the warrant closes at that point for the December 1st special town meeting. So do you have concerns with that? As I said, you know, we're trying to deal with as much information as we can as a working group and then as a board here to listen to the responses that we're getting and make informed decisions to move this thing forward. I don't know what more I can tell you to increase your comfort level with the process. Same thing with Mr. Dowd. I mean, there were concerns. And
I'm comfortable with the process.
Okay.
I just don't want this thing to get spread out so that your decision is inconsequential.
Well, okay, Mr. Brunel, the moderator, can you explain the process that may take place at town meeting? We're going to, say if we're Article 1 and 2, we have our straw vote and whatever, people don't like, just, can you help us a little bit to enlighten those that are watching and present?
Well, our plan is a work in progress, but as of right now, the idea would be to have, ordinarily, as you know, we don't discuss anything until someone makes a motion that's been seconded, and then the floor is open for debate. We're not going to do that. We're going to, first of all, allow a general presentation, as we've heard here, to explain everything that's going on. And then there'll be discussions regarding the two properties or whatever, however many properties there are. And then at that point, we'll take a non-binding vote and see which of the two properties seems to have, if any, has the most support. And then at that point, it would request a motion on that property. If that passes, then I understand the idea would be to move to table the second parcel.
Okay.
Although it could be moved and it could be voted on. It could.
Okay.
You could have two parcels if that's what the town wants.
Okay.
Okay.
So that goes again to, you know, Mr. Dowd, they could end up with two parcels or one parcel or, you know. Yes, sir.
Because this is a zoning amendment, it requires a 2/3 vote.
Okay.
So it's not going to be 51% of 300 people that decide it. And to your point, Mr. Dowd, it is amazing to me sometimes when every town meeting that there might be 100 people there. Sometimes there's 75 people, and half of those people plus one are going to spend $10 million for the town. So my response to that is town meetings advertised. Show up if you want to vote.
Right.
Roger, we're going to check on the 2/3 versus majority. I think some of the information we've seen, the consultants have seen indicate, and I recognize your point on zoning. I'm not sure if MBTA communities is different, so we'll pull that information, and that'll be part of our working group that we're going to set up.
I always consult town council on that. I don't decide that.
Sure.
Okay. Yes, question here. Yes, Robin?
Yeah, I'll hand it over to Robin. I just wanted, in the interests of everyone being heard, Tina Gray wants you to know she filled out the survey also.
Oh, good for you. Thank you, Tina.
And Heidi Johnson, 57 Grove Street, agrees with 75 Grove Street.
Okay.
Hello, Robin Tasca, Keep App. I just first off want to say thank you very much to everybody's efforts, Planning Board, zoning, Roberta, fire chief, everybody else. So you've done a great job. Secondly, I just more of a comment in general. I attended last year's zoning special town meeting, and it was embarrassing to be a Paxton person that night because there was a lot that just was overkill, overboard, and I felt bad for those that were just trying to do their job. And as just a message out there to anyone listening in Zoom land or who are going to watch it in the future, please do not behave like that at this special town meeting. We're better than that as a town. Tonight, we're having a really nice, calm discussion. Everybody's attentive, everybody's got different opinions, but they're speaking them. They're not over the top.
Correct.
Just leave it at that. And I'm just saying it out there to be on record for prosperity because it's being recorded.
Okay.
Please be better than that, Paxton, and let's just have a calm discussion and get through the special town meeting
Okay.
appropriately.
Thank you, Rob. Yes, comment in the back, please.
Hi, I'm Kathy Palmer, Streeter Road in Paxton. And I've lived here all my life. And I think that we do need to have and welcome, as an American would, other people into this town. I think it's great fiscally for us, and I want to thank Robin, because I think you're the one who hooked me up with knowing what was going on here tonight, and I finally made it because I'm a very busy person. But this is from my whole family. Streeter Road, which it has, I don't know, I know that this lady here lives on Streeter, and some of these other people do too. Bumble Brook runs down to the reservoir, and that would tie in with the Grove Street property. And I'm concerned about that. And Asnabumskett runs into the Leicester Reservoir there on 56, and I'm concerned about that. So I know you guys, this is way ahead of the game, but I want you to be mindful of the environment and the septic situation and the runoff and all the poisons that go into those reservoirs, because it's killing everything, including us. So just be cautious about it and be thoughtful about it. Okay? That's my spiel.
Yes, please take the microphone. Just tell us who you are.
Hi, I'm Ann Casavanchani. I grew up in Paxton also, and we were in 4-H together with our horses.
That's why I care about it.
Yeah, and I just want to say that I care a lot about open space, and I also went to school with Curtis Whitehead from the Whitehead Farm, and I live on Pleasant Street in the center of town, and I always hope that there'll be more farms in town someday. I think it's important that we keep some space that's farmland open as farmland so that our great-grandchildren have the opportunity to have farmland. And I also would like to say I grew up in a house that then had 2 apartments upstairs at 604 Pleasant when I was very little, and I know that people need to move into town and have, I'm a fan of having more housing for people that they can afford to live in, but we still need to be mindful of the open space, especially farmland, that should be continued to be preserved. I would have gone with redeveloping land that's been lost already to development, houses, and you guys mentioned that you didn't want to look at developing land that was already having houses on it. That's where I would have put my quarter, finding lots that people had a house, much like the one I first lived in, where there were apartments in it, and building those out larger. But it's too late in the game, I think, for that. And I would just say, please be mindful of trying to keep some farmland left, especially the Pleasant Street property. It's really close to my heart.
Okay, thank you. Anybody else? Anybody on Zoom that would like to just weigh in at this point? Okay, hearing none at this point, I think we're going to close the public hearing, and we'll be now set ourselves up as the planning board to discuss what we feel we want to move forward with. So, all right, thank you for attendance, those of you that came, and those of you that are watching. If you continue to stay, that's fine with me. And I also would like to kind of second what Robin said, that we had a very civil discussion here tonight. Everybody got to say what they wanted to say in a very, I'm going to say, calm and professional, rational way, and I'm hoping that that just carries forward to December 1st. So, thank you very much. We'll go from there. All right, planning board members. We are now tasked with selecting parcels. It can be 2, 3, you can, whatever you want to do, we can discuss it. So I've done most of the talking here tonight, so I'm going to sit and listen to what you guys want to say.
Well,
make sure you get on the mic.
I certainly was in favor of, I think, what was suggested here about choosing a parcel that was maybe less likely to be developed and one that was more likely to be developed. It was news to me about the owner of Aston Bumskit that does not want the land included in the zoning, because I think that was one of the better choices for not being developed. Again, I don't think it really affects him either being in the zoning overlay, but with that said, and with the other property of someone wanting their land included, I think I would make a motion to include the Grove Street property as one of the properties in the article.
Okay. Discussion further?
I think the number one priority we have to consider is checking the box, right? We're being forced through state law to consider this. Otherwise, we'll be looking at additional overrides. And we've had 4 overrides in the past 3 years. 1 passed. It's painful as a community to have to continue to go through that. Not getting additional funding to the tune of what our last override was is just going to add to that. So I think we've got to keep on the forefront. Number one priority is put something forward that can check that box, and then we always have the option in the future to add additional property as we see fit. But we won't be losing that important $600,000, $700,000 a year that we need as a community.
Okay. Do you have a preference to any of the 4 sites under consideration?
After what I hear here and in the survey, it sounds like West Street is a preferred property. It's got good access to the road there. I live up the street, and I've also been in communities where they've added housing, and it has a lot of fear in the beginning, but in the end, it really doesn't put anyone out if it's done well and done right. And I think this planning board would make sure that it's done well and done right.
Okay. Bruno?
I think it was brought up a couple times. We just give the town something that might be harder to do and something that's a little easier to do. So Aston Bumskit and West Street, I think, would be top on that list.
Okay. Peter?
After hearing everyone talk, trying to preserve some of the land as far as farmland, my in-laws had a farm. Fortunately, the golf course ended up being there and being preserved as far as the land itself. But I think we should go forward with looking at the West Street site as far as a location.
Okay, do you have a second to,
second would be Ascabonsket.
Okay. So at the present time, there is a motion. We've not had a second yet, but we had a motion. So would you repeat your motion so that we can just kind of get it on the table, and we'll see if we get a second to this? And
No, I made a motion to accept the Grove Street property as one of the properties for the warrant.
It's not one of the 4 on the list.
It is.
It is.
Oh, which property?
It's on Grove Street.
Yes.
Oh, the Grove Street.
Yes.
Grove Street.
Yeah. It was the one that the resident offered or wanted it to be included.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So do we have a second to that? Ooh, seeing none, hearing none. Okay, let's move on to Plan B. Okay, does somebody want to make a motion different than that?
I'd like to make a motion that we select the site of West Street.
Okay, as a single site right now?
As a single, right, correct, as a
Okay.
single site.
Discussion?
Yes, yes.
Is that was just only 6 acres of that property?
Yes, just over 6 acres.
Just 8, so the property is larger.
Approximately 55
Can
acres.
you pop the
total.
slide back up on the screen, because
Yeah.
it showed the whole site, and then it had the red overlay district on it?
And it would only ever be those 6 acres, right?
Unless you changed it.
Okay.
I think it's slide 8, 9. There we go, right there. So that parcel is 55 or more acres, plus or minus, and
It's all wooded right now?
it is, yes.
There's some, the 6 acres is currently all wooded, yes.
A point of clarity, my property, I think, is within 500 feet of that line. If that means I need to recuse myself, I certainly.
What number at West Street, what number is that one?
Oh, goodness, what is the address? I think it's 0 West Street. I don't think it has a.
685?
489.
480, okay.
If you, in the map that they showed, there's a parcel that has a long.
Driveway.
You're just to the right of that.
Yeah, I can't see it here, but.
All right. So at the present time, then, there is a motion on the table. We have not had a second yet, so again, that's sitting out there for West Street. Does anybody care to second that, and then we'll have further discussion and maybe move the motion?
I would second it.
Okay. Any further discussion? Okay. Those in favor of West Street as one of the parcels, take a vote.
Aye.
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 Aye. And aye. Okay, so there's one. Now, we need, based on advice from council, town council, and our working group that I was a member of, they're asking that we have at least one more. Based on the history that we've seen, or you've seen through other communities, 2 is better than 1, but not better than 3. Is that kind of where I'm at? That's what I remember hearing?
I would say most communities that I've worked with, all the communities I've worked with have brought 1 to town meeting. However, I would say based on what we've been hearing from the community, it would be wise to move forward at least 2.
Okay, all right, that's kind of the impression that I had after going through discussions with town council, the moderator at some point. He's weighed in on some of this, and we're in uncharted waters in terms of how we're going to handle this at special town meeting, but that's where we are. So is there a motion for a second parcel?
I'll make a motion for Aston Bumskit.
Okay, do we have a second?
I'll second that.
Okay, any further discussion?
I think we heard that's probably got the least likeliness to be built on, just from all the messages we heard from the current owner.
I think, yes.
But people say things, and then they get presented with an offer, and they change their mind. So.
Okay, and I think.
But what I'm hearing is, I mean, the owner has total control. They can choose to keep their property.
Exactly.
Not make any changes, and we still have put a zone there that checks that box.
Yeah, and keep in mind, there is zoning on that property right now. There's an overlay district. It's a communications overlay. So, and he's, happy with that, whatever. The thing I would, I guess, like to emphasize or reiterate here is that if that property moves forward after we take a vote here, it doesn't mean that we're going to end up with 84 units there. That property, with its whatever building conditions are, may limit itself to something less than 84. It may be less than, God knows, 30, or it may be less than 50. I don't know, but that would have to come forward through the development process and the engineering research that would be done to bring a plan forward to the planning board here. So I don't want people maybe watching at home figuring, they choose Aston Bumskit, there's going to be 84 new units up here and a couple hundred residents. I think that's, farthest from reality.
And I think also that's if the owner digs their heels in, nothing happens.
Yeah, it's fine. But it checks the box for us as a town and puts us in compliance.
And we get our funding.
Yes,
right.
We continue to keep the fund.
Right.
That's true. That's true. So any further discussions, comments?
Those towers would have to come down first?
I don't believe so. The towers do have to come down.
I mean, Probably.
All right.
I mean, I think you could build something, but why would you? That would be kind of nuts. So yeah, you'd have to choose no longer to have a tower.
Yeah, okay. So, see, he's in control of that.
Yeah, yeah. So, I mean, at the end with that property, you have two properties, one that could be built, and if the town feels that that's needed for the community, they get that option. Another that is got a lot of hurdles, and if you want to check the box, you present that option.
Okay. We're good? All right, let's take a vote. Bruno?
Aye.
David?
Aye.
Peter?
Aye.
Jason?
Aye.
Aye. So we have our two parcels. Okay. That should at least check the box with town council. We're getting them what they were hoping for. All right, so we'll move forward with that. The last item that we have to discuss this evening is Section 16, the MBTA Communities Overlay District, the actual wording of what can go on there. So I was involved with Jeff and Roberta in, well, I guess, Jeff, you guys actually created this, or will.
No, actually, the original draft was from the Regional Planning Council.
Okay.
And then we took what they had created and continued shaping it.
Okay, so it's evolved. It's been like a working or a living document, but we're where we need to be. So if
the real big question, is the affordable housing. We have to answer that question, and I will have some additional work to do based on your decision on that
tonight,
point.
right. So I think following on what Roberta said, we already have inclusionary zoning for projects, and this would fall under that scope of, it's a project. So I think this is just my feeling. So please, I mean, I'm ready to debate this thing and whatever. If we leave it as inclusionary right now, can you just enlighten the board, Roberta, as to where we're at? We're at 10% or less of units that would be proposed to be built, could be or would, is it could or would?
Well, if you vote to have inclusionary zoning as part of your bylaw, then it would be mandatory that if over 6 units were built, 10% of them would be affordable.
Okay. So we have an understanding of where we're going with that, and that kind of helps in the big picture of what we're trying to do here.
And if we don't do that, what's the impact to the town?
None.
Okay.
Do we meet our affordable housing threshold now, or?
No.
No, I don't think so.
Yeah.
I think,
You'd be losing an opportunity to add to your SHI.
yeah.
Right. As I said, I think that the numbers that we heard, we're under 5% of the total units. And just to enlighten the community here, we happen to have the highest number, percent-wise, of the 5 towns in the Wachusett region. However, we're a small community. When you look at Holden with the number of units they have, and the residents and whatever, they're just below us. I think at like 4.3, and we're at 4.6 or something like that. So I'm not patting ourselves on the back. We've done a good job, but we're not where the state requirements are.
But not meeting the state requirements or putting forth motions to meet it, will that exclude us from funding?
No.
And are there any penalties?
No.
Okay.
Good question.
Completely up to you.
But not meeting that means that developer could go past that 4.6 number. Isn't that mean we're supposed to be at 10 per the state?
The town is still open to a 40B development unless we meet or exceed the 10% threshold. So despite this overlay, and I think we saw that on Muir Meadow a decade or so back, someone approached the town to do a 40B, and it wasn't until they recognized that there was no public sewer and that cost of a package treatment plant was going to exceed what made sense for that development. But the town is always susceptible to a 40B developer until it meets the 10% threshold.
Yeah.
Okay. Just if you pass this and there was affordable housing included, you might be able to produce some units to get you closer to the 10%.
This is just a benefit to the growth of the town. It just allows us to keep increasing that number of units, that's all. So I think, it's something you as a board, we as a board need to consider. And as I said, we're open to discussions or debate. So first question is, do we want to have inclusionary as part of the requirement for affordability. So,
I think we should keep it consistent.
okay, so can we have a motion to that? That'll start that.
A motion to keep it 10% affordable over 6 units.
Over 6 units. So just to, let's put it
To have
this way.
your existing inclusionary zoning apply.
Right, let's just
When you
add
say consistent with what?
the inclusionary zoning we have presently in our zoning bylaws.
Okay, okay.
So that we're
Yep.
going to add that to this
And that was
section.
that was voted on at a prior town meeting.
Correct.
Right. So
Correct.
Yep.
All right, so do we have a second of that?
I'll second that.
Okay. Further discussion. We all know where we're going with this. Yes, sir.
If we exclude it, would that help current residents more? Whereas if we're here to talk about, okay, let's get houses in there that are more affordable to town employees or teachers or anybody else, would it take away from current employees now or current residents that are looking to stay in town by saying, okay, 10% has to go somewhere else? If residents are making $70,000, $80,000, which is too little for a $700,000 house, but enough for something affordable, would we rather just want to say, okay, 30 units can go, town residents have the ability to take the whole 30 units, not 26 or 27?
So anyone can take those affordable units.
Okay. What's the threshold for that, though?
What do you mean?
The 10%.
80% of the...
80% of the average area median income.
Right.
So it can be if a developer came in and they're providing this affordable housing, they could choose to make it available to families making less than that.
But it's their choice, right?
But it's their choice.
It's their choice, that's right.
So we're not saying it has to be 10%. That would...
You are saying it has to be 10% of the units need to be affordable.
Okay.
Or that's 6 or more.
What makes? Can
what's that
you
threshold,
define?
though?
Yeah. What makes it affordable?
Yeah.
Well, that's another question, right? So you look at again that 80% of the area median income, and I don't know off the top of my head what your area median income is, but you take 80% of that, and anyone who's making that, like between that and 100%, would be eligible for that housing. Again, that's not to say that a developer couldn't choose to market this to people making less than that. The town just can't require it be less than that.
2021, our area median income was $123,000 a year.
So 80% of that is like 94,000, yes.
I'm just looking at the,
That's yeah.
Wow.
can I borrow that? We're getting Bruno.
Yeah.
And I'm just looking at the MBTA tab on the paxtonma.gov site, where they've done a great job putting a lot of information for the public in there to look over all this material, not just in the meetings,
97.
but everyone can review it. And it looks like 80%, based on the figures here under the MBA tab on our town homepage, paxtonma.gov, $72,000.
So anybody making 72 or less could
72,000 or more.
or more.
Between 72,000 and that average, the area median, it's that 120. Yeah.
Wouldn't qualify.
Would qualify.
Would qualify.
So the developer at that point can choose to sell them the house at a reduced level so that they would qualify for a mortgage.
So hypothetically, if they got a pay raise and it exceeded that, what would happen to them?
If you bought your house, nothing.
Yeah.
If you're buying the house and that, you say, hold the raise off till after we close.
I think if you're,
It's a serious question.
It is.
Yeah.
That threshold is, someone could move into a management position and all of a sudden go from making 75,000 to 105. It's,
and Jeff can correct me if I'm wrong, I think if you purchase an affordable home, there's a deed restriction on profitability of sales within a certain amount of time.
So there's a resale formula to make sure that, I mean, you can continue living there as long as you want. If your situation improves, that's great. I mean, that's part of the benefit of home ownership, right?
Yep.
We don't want to penalize people for that. But agreement, if you buy an affordable unit, is it has to still be affordable at that same income level to the next person who buys it. So you're not going to have as much equity as if it were not an affordable unit.
That's just a lot of red tape for someone trying to get ahead.
And again, this is based on your
If we're trying to open the doors to Paxton to say, okay, come into the town and we will make it more affordable, just now someone to get ahead, it's going to be harder.
Yeah. And remember, I don't think we've talked about this in this meeting, we've talked about it in others. The developer has the opportunity to decide whether they want to sell the units or rent the units.
Yep. Okay.
So that's a different amount of red
So
tape.
then if they're renting and they get a pay raise, what happens? Do they get kicked out?
No.
Okay.
So if they're selling,
If you get the end of your lease and it has to get renewed, then you may have to find a different housing.
I don't think we should put it in then.
And again, this is how your inclusionary zoning works today.
Currently.
So it would just be applying your current rules here. The other thing to note, and particularly for the homeownership, and even for the affordable rentals, if people have the option of doing something else, they're going to do something else. So if they're taking advantage of the affordable unit, they know that there are these strings attached, and it's generally because they want to live in Paxton, and there's no other way for them to do it.
Yeah.
If you have another option, you're going to choose that other option. So this is really for people who want to live in Paxton, and those other options don't exist for them.
It's just a big jump to go from being able to afford something like this to having to, at the end of your lease, you get kicked out, and then what are you looking at? $600,000, $700,000, $800,000 houses is the next option. That's a lot.
it's just to boil it down to simple terms. So I'm a developer. I come in, I put 6 homes there, or 6 apartments or condos. One of them has to be affordable. That means the price that I sell it for has to be under a level that somebody making $73,000 could afford?
Correct.
Okay.
So basically, you take the rule of thumb is that household making $75,000 approximately should be spending no more than about 30% of their income on housing.
Okay.
And so the price is sort of backed into in that way.
Okay, yeah.
And again, that unit then stays designated, there's a deed restriction on it that it's affordable.
Right.
So when you go to sell it, if you develop it, I buy it, when I go to move, it's still there, and the rates will move up, but the equity increase doesn't necessarily go up as much because we're limited by prices.
The 72,000, is that filed jointly, or like?
Were you looking up was that the family?
Like, let's say I'm a.
You were probably looking at family of 4.
$35 an hour.
So there are different numbers depending on the number of people in your household.
Yeah.
So if you're a single person, it's different than if you're a married couple, than if you're a married couple with children.
So like heavy equipment operators, $35 to $40 an hour. I have a full-time job in town. I'm a heavy equipment operator. I make $70,000, $75,000 with overtime. My wife gets a job as a teacher, makes $60,000 a year. Would we, at the end of our lease, have to leave if we were renting that?
No, because wait, the number changes if you're filing as single or as a family or a family with kids. So
this might double.
Well, it could go to, instead of 72, it might be 130.
Okay.
If you're married filing jointly.
Perfect.
So
I'm sorry, I don't have all those exact numbers off the top of my head.
Jeff, that's fine. I mean, we're getting the concept here of where we're going with this. So we have a motion to accept the inclusionary. We've had a second, and we've had discussion. No, wait, did we have? No, we didn't have a second yet. You made the motion, correct?
Yeah, and I second.
Oh, I'm sorry. Then it was. Oh, so now we're in discussion. So any further discussion? All in. We'll start here. Bruno. No. Okay, David.
Yes.
Peter.
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. 4-1. Okay. All right. So now that we have the inclusionary portion in the section, are you guys comfortable with the rest of the wording? The only question that I had. We changed the frontage requirement from 200 to 80, so that we would end up with, or we have the possibility of ending up with what I call a flag lot or a hammerhead lot, something with an access and then a large portion. So I'm okay with that. We were actually requested to do that, correct? Wasn't, okay, that's where that came out. So I'm okay with that because that was a change we made from the original. Jeff, was there anything else that you guys improved upon here based on the core that you started with?
I mean, there were some things that we eliminated. For example, we had talked about the minimum lot size. I think the Regional Planning Agency was also recommending that we eliminate it, particularly in the context of the locations that you were looking at. So that was a change. We eliminated the minimum open space requirement because that's just not something that you do in other zones.
Right.
And in any event, the 30% maximum building and parking coverage takes care of that anyway. The rest of the 70% is, you know, with the exception of, you know, walkways and so forth, is going to be open space. So those were the major changes that we made. There were some, I think, some site design stuff from the state's template that I didn't think really fit here because you have other parts of your zoning that already take care of that. And I think the affordable housing piece is another example of that, where there's still some vestiges of requirements for affordable units that I will recommend we delete and just cross-reference to your existing inclusionary zoning. So this was just, you know.
So that's when you're saying that's the work you have to do.
That's the work I have to do, is to make sure that this is now consistent with
and will be accepted by the Attorney General.
Exactly. Exactly. So I just have to make sure that there's nothing there that's contradictory, and so a lot of this language will just go away based on your decision tonight. So those are the major things. We didn't change a whole lot else. You know, I mentioned the parking issue is something that you can continue to play around with. If you're comfortable with everything else, though, that's
you good?
That's about it.
I think we should change the parking.
2, okay, change it. Increase it or decrease it?
I think we should increase the parking. I think 2 makes more sense for where I'm coming from. I think the likelihood of a large building seems unlikely, and that's where the smaller number makes more sense. I think a smaller development is more likely, and I think more parking for that makes more sense to me.
Okay.
So another approach that some communities have used is to base the parking spaces on the size of the units.
Meaning bedrooms?
Number of bedrooms, exactly. So if there was a studio or 1 bedroom, you'd allow, or you only require one spot per unit, and then anything above that you'd require 2. Is another approach.
To do something like that? Yeah, I think that makes sense.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah. So do we want to, so we want to amend the parking spaces to correlate to bedrooms or unit size. I guess we'll say studio, which would have 1, and then anything else after that would have 2.
It's up to you. Or 1 bedroom could have 1.5 or just 1.
I do 1 bedroom, 1.5, and then 2 bedrooms above that.
2 bedrooms up is 2.
Yep.
I think that makes sense.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, let's take the motion.
I'll make a motion that we change the parking to a studio requires 1, 1 bedroom requires 1.5, and anything above that requires 2.
I'll second it.
Okay, any further discussion? Okay, we'll start on this end. I'll let you off the hook. Peter?
Yes.
Okay.
Aye.
David?
Yes.
Bruno?
Aye.
Okay, aye. And we're good there. All right. So, now that that's changed, we are still looking at a motion to accept the document that Jeff is going to amend to clean up for town meeting.
Yep.
So, anything else that comes to mind that you'd like to review or change?
I believe so.
All right, I will entertain a motion to accept the document with the, I will say clerical changes, or however you want to look at the wording. What do you want us to say?
Yeah, I think
grammatical change?
No, not grammatical. I mean, they're clerical. I think that's accurate, just to make sure there's consistency with the state law.
Okay.
I second.
Okay, so wait, whoa, he made the motion. No, we need
I
a
thought you-
motion. No, I just
I thought
said
you
we need a motion to accept the document with the clerical changes that he will be.
I will make the motion to accept the document with the clerical.
I'll second.
All right, any further discussion?
None.
Okay, Peter.
Yes.
Jason.
Aye.
Bruno.
Aye.
David.
Yes.
Yes. Okay, we're good. All right, I believe that is the last item on the agenda. Jeff, how did I do with that? Other than you want to do minutes, or you want to wait? Let's wait till next meeting.
Okay.
Just because we had a lot going here. All right. So with that, I think we're done. I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
Make a motion to adjourn the
We
meeting.
have a second?
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, okay. Thank you, everybody.
Meeting adjourned.
Meeting is adjourned. Okay.